The Season 14 item rework has brought forth a ton of new OP builds, and we're set to bring you guys 10 of them in this video. We'll be covering 2 builds for every single role that you can look to abuse in your ranked games for patch 14.2. But before we get into it, be sure to check out Skill-Capped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description below. Starting us off with a couple top lane builds, there's this new hybrid setup for Vayne that is extremely underrated right now. The new Bruiser item Experimental Hexplate is slotting in really nicely on top lane Vayne. Once you complete Blade of the Ruined King and Rage Blade, you really don't need to build super offensive from then on out. By going Hexplate, you provide yourself with some added durability and a passive that synergizes perfectly with Vayne's kit. Vayne is 10 times the champion when her ultimate is available, so the fact Hexplate provides you with 30 ultimate ability haste makes your mid to late game impact way more consistent with Vayne. The passive on Hexplate is amazing as well, since the added movement speed on top of Vayne's Q makes it effortless for you to kite out targets. The rune page to run with this build is Lethal Tempo, followed by Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace. Take Conditioning and Overgrowth for secondaries. This new Season 14 Aatrox build has turned him into an absolute monster of a top lane pick. At first, we were skeptical that the removal of Gore Drinker could hurt Aatrox, but he's fitting in perfectly with this new 2-item core. Sundered Sky is a great rush item for Aatrox, as it works amazing with how the champion wants to function. Aatrox wants to trade around his Q cooldown, and since the passive heal on Sundered Sky is a 6-second cooldown, it will always be up when you're looking to trade. Sundered Sky is so much better on Aatrox compared to other bruisers because of his healing amplifier on R. When Aatrox has his ultimate running, self-healing from all sources are increased by 25, scaling to 45%. This means Sundered Sky heal becomes even more ridiculous on Aatrox. The second item in this build is Spear of Shojin, as it gives Aatrox everything he wants: some durability, damage, and most importantly, a ton of ability haste for his basic abilities so that he can spam out Q more often. Get to this 2-item spike on Aatrox and you can begin taking over games in 14.2. As for the rune page, grab Conqueror with Triumph, Tenacity, and Last Stand. Optimal secondaries are Second Wind and Revitalize. With the removal of Duskblade for Season 14, initially it seemed that Hecarim would be losing his lethality build completely, but there's a new setup that's popping off right now. Spear of Shojin is the rush item, as it's way too good for Hecarim to pass up on, even if you're building lethality. From then on out though, it's all lethality oriented, with the new item Opportunity as your second pickup. Opportunity is a really great lethality item for Hecarim, as it gives 5% movement speed and stats, and provides a passive that gives movement speed on takedowns. Now, the third item to round out the core build will be Profane Hydra. Hydra gives Hecarim some really nice added bursts to his full combo with the active, and also offers 20 ability haste, which is a stat Hecarim really wants for that low cooldown Q. Make sure you get the rune page right when playing this build, as you want Phase Rush instead of Conqueror. You will be more squishy with this setup compared to Bruiser, so the burst of movement speed from Phase Rush will help you be more slippery in fights. An item really flying under the radar right now on Bel'Veth is Terminus. Just take a look at the clip in the background gameplay here. Bel'Veth is able to stack Terminus faster than any champion in the game due to her E. Every damage proc from E gives Bel'Veth a stack of Terminus, so she's able to acquire 9 out of the max 10 stacks with a single E usage. With Terminus at max stacks of its passive, the item becomes 190% gold efficient, which is completely insane. The fact that Bel'Veth can stack the passive so quickly gives it so much more value on her than any other champion in the game. With this in mind, it's really no surprise that Terminus has the highest win rate for any third item on Bel'Veth. However, it's only being picked in 7% of games. The complete core build you should be looking to run consists of a Kraken Slayer rush into Stridebreaker second and Terminus third. Stridebreaker is actually buffed here in 14.2, so this build becomes even more lethal. In regards to the rune page, take Conqueror with Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace, followed by Magical Footwear and Cosmic Insight for secondaries. So there's this new 2-item core for Galio that makes him the best counter pick mid in the game right now. Instead of building full AP Galio, it's tank with Hollow Radiance as the rush item. Hollow Radiance is one of the new magic resist items for Season 14 that offers 600 health and 40 magic resist. The passive is kind of like Sunfire Aegis, where you deal bonus damage around you after taking or dealing damage. With this build, you're going to be playing Galio much more like a frontline tank, so you get really good value out of this passive in an extended fight. Where you really get cooking with this setup though is when you grab your second core item in Kaenic Rookern. Kaenic Rookern gives you that juicy magic shield that scales off max health, so it works great in tandem with Hollow Radiance since you're getting 600 health from Hollow. In total, you'll have 120 magic resist from these 2 items alone, which makes it the ultimate build to counter heavy AP compositions. If there's ever a time to have a pocket pick ready to pull out when the situation arises, it's tank Galio in 14.2. Has the enemy team just locked magic damage in top, jungle, and mid lane? Galio is basically a free win with this build. So that you have even more tankiness with this setup, be sure to run Aftershock for the Keystone rune with Shield Bash, Bone Plating, and Overgrowth. The best secondaries are Nimbus Cloak and Transcendence. There's this really nasty 2-item core going around on Annie right now that will become even more powerful in 14.2. With Storm Surge nerfed this patch, many burst mages are going to feel pain from that change, but what if we told you Annie has an alternative build that's even better than Storm Surge? Malignance is the best rush item on Annie regardless of how the rest of your setup plays out, as it works so well with how Annie wants to play around her ultimate. Second item is where you switch it up though, as you should be dropping Storm Surge and running Liandry's. Now, what's going to tie the build together perfectly and give maximum synergy between all the items is grabbing Rylai's third. One of the big issues with building Storm Surge and Shadow Flame on Annie is that you literally have no health at all. For a champion that is shorter ranged, sure, you may burst out a target really easily, but your ability to stay alive consistently and not get one-shot is way more difficult. By building Liandry's and Rylai's, your damage may drop off a little, but the utility and consistent threat throughout an extended fight is way higher. The slow from Rylai's will help you get more damage out of Malignance and Liandry's, as Tibbers will be able to stick onto targets much better. You also get 700 health from this setup, which allows you to play more aggro and not have to worry about being deleted instantly. Rune page you should be running on Annie is Electrocute with Cheap Shot, Eyeball Collection, and Relentless Hunter. Grab Mana Flow and Absolute Focus for secondaries. It's almost like this item was built specifically for Draven, as the new lethality item Hubris is extremely powerful for the champ. Hubris provides you with stacking bonus AD on takedown, so it's the ultimate snowball-y rush item for Draven. Now you can actually slot Hubris in second as well if you still want the mobility from Ghostblade earlier on. There's really two core builds you can run while abusing Hubris right now. You either skip Ghostblade completely and go Hubris into the Collector and Infinity Edge, or if you want Ghostblade, which is actually really nice to have on Draven, you then pick up Hubris second and the Collector third. All in all, you should be slotting Hubris in somewhere in your core build on Draven right now, as the item has so much strength after its 14.1 hotfix buffs. Rune page for Draven when playing this lethality build is Hail of Blades with Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, and Treasure Hunter. Roll with Presence of Mind and Bloodline for secondaries. Despite lethality builds taking over in the ADC role right now, there's a new hybrid build seeing really great success on Ashe. It's a mix of crit and on hit, as you are rushing Kraken Slayer, going Trinity Force second, and then picking up the brand new item Terminus third. Our challenger player Hector actually has a brand new full game commentary on our website where he's playing this build. You have a ton of consistent DPS from the setup with attack speed on every single item and a good amount of burst as well due to the Kraken and Trinity Force passives. Terminus is basically a better version of Rageblade for Ashe, as the attack speed from Rageblade's passive is a bit overkill, while the armor and magic resist you get from Terminus feels really nice. The rune page you should be running with this build is Lethal Tempo, followed by Presence of Mind, Bloodline, and Coup de Grace. Pick up Biscuits and Approach Velocity for secondaries. We covered Trailblazer Bard in our 14.1 edition of the OP builds, and there's an even stronger setup you can look to have used in 14.2. The build revolves around one reworked item and one new item for Season 14, as you're going Frozen Heart into Kaenic Rookern. Frozen Heart is actually seeing a cost increase this patch from 2,300 to 2,400 gold. However, the item is still very cheap for what it offers, which is a big reason to why Bard likes it so much. You get a ton of armor from Frozen Heart, and then you go into Kaenic Rookern second to stack a mass amount of magic resist. Into a comp that has a bunch of mixed damage threats, this build works wonders in allowing you to soak damage in fights. You're insanely tanky, which helps Bard play up a lot more aggressive in fights, getting constant procs of passive slow off, and just being an annoying disruptor. The third item to round off this core build is a more offensive pickup in Imperial Mandate. Mandate works great with Bard because his passive autos proc the Mandate passive to provide your teammates with added damage. Since Bard has no issues at all staying in auto range due to the tankiness of the build, he will be able to proc Mandate very consistently throughout a fight. For the rune page, it's Guardian with Font of Life, Bone Plating, and Unflinching, followed by Zombie Ward and Relentless Hunter for secondaries. As if Sona wasn't already one of the best scaling enchanters in the game, this new Season 14 item has made her late game even more oppressive. Dawn Core is a relatively niche item at the moment, but it's performing insanely well on Sona. The passive on Dawn Core gives you heal and shield power based on your mana regen, and since all of Sona's core items provide mana regen, she gets great value out of Dawn Core. The core build is all about amplifying your heal power to the max, as it's an Echoes of Helia rush into Moonstone second and Dawn Core third. Remember, last season you weren't able to build Moonstone and Echoes together since they were both mythic items. Now with them being legendaries in Season 14, the healing potential from this setup is nuts. The rune page that you'll want to run with this build is Airy, followed by Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Gathering Storm. Roll with Conditioning and Revitalize for secondaries. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about Skill-Capped. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week, with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. there. We've also sent Challenger players into ELO Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. So that's going to round it all out for our latest edition of the OP Build. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you back soon.